Welcome to 3Con Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. We're going to talk about NXT Vengeance Day, which has been the best pay-per-view I've seen in quite a while. It was excellent. There were some things I would change, clearly, but overall, it was excellent. Let's get right into it. There was no Booker T. Booker T said he had to have a medical procedure, so he was replaced with Bad News Barrett. And Barrett is, pretty good. I don't know about Barrett and Graves being the commentators for SmackDown, but Barrett's not a bad voice. He's actually pretty good. He's pretty energetic. And of course, he knows his stuff, being a former Intercontinental Champion and everything. So it all worked out. He was solid on this show. I think it would have been so much better with Booker T, but it was still pretty good. Now let's get right into the action. Dusty Cup Finals, Trick-Melo, Explosion. We got to talk about this. For starters, Braun Breaker, Baron Corbin win the Dusty Cup Finals. So this match was really fun, for starters. Fun contest. Braun Breaker really just gets in a zone where he just starts doing stuff. And sometimes he goes a little overboard. So he almost took his own head off running into the ropes. I think he kind of leaned a little too early and ended up with his head under the rope and, pulled his own head back, which is, of course, not good for you. That ain't good for your neck. That ain't what you want to do with it. In any event, he survived it, but geez, it looked ugly. Next, he did this backdrop cutter. I know he did it at the Royal Rumble as well, but he did it to Carmelo Hayes in this match. I mean, this thing it's pretty dope as far as moves are concerned. He also hip tossed Baron Corbin over the top rope, which was probably a leap for Baron Corbin. Like, he showed that he had some jumps. I was very impressed at Baron Corbin doing a dive. The finish, of course, plays into the Trick-Melo story. Carmelo Hayes pushed Trick Williams out of the way and took the spear from Braun Breaker and took the pin. So Braun Breaker, Baron Corbin win the match. Carmelo Hayes took the pin, but he took the spear on behalf of Trick Williams to get you to believe that he was trying to help Trick. So later in the show, when they were discussing why he did that, Carmelo Hayes says he didn't want to give Ilya Dragunov any sort of advantage in the main event match, and that he's got Trick Williams back throughout this whole thing. So Trick Williams said, look, I really appreciate that. That meant a lot to me. And actually invited Carmelo Hayes to be in his corner in the main event, which is a great departure for the story thus far, where Trick Williams has wanted to do everything on his own. But he wants Carmelo Hayes to be ringside when he fights Ilya Dragunov. So then that's the main event, of course. Ilya Dragunov, Trick Williams. This match ruled. This match kicked ass. Complete ass. And the story was very simple, and it didn't require Trick Williams to do a lot. Only thing he had to do was sell. And he did such an amazing job of it. I mean, he was bleeding from I don't know if it was from the nose or the mouth, but he was bleeding hard way. He also ended up busting open Ilya Dragunov, who also probably was bleeding from his lip or his nose. And these two guys were just really laying it in. Dragunov is owning the ring, saying that he's never going to get knocked off his throne. He's very loud. And the crowd actually starts booing Dragunov. Like, they're at 100% pro Trick. Dragunov starts doing the Benoit suplexes, the German suplexes. And he's talking to Trick while he's doing it, saying, you promised me you're going to give 100%. You told me you're going to give it everything. And then Trick starts to power out, almost Hogan-esque in his power up. And the crowd comes alive. I mean, the crowd just wakes up. Of course, that's just a hope spot. And we go back into the German suplexes. Trick Williams was showing fire. It was really good. He did a Uranagi off the apron onto the floor. So like a rock bottom on the floor. Really ugly spot. I can't believe Dragunov took that. But then again, this is a pay-per-view main event. So it's fine, I guess. So as they were outside the ring, Trick was recovering near the stairs when Melo got in Ilya Dragunov's face. Ilya shoved him. Melo threw a punch. Ilya ducked it. He slugged Melo from behind. Melo then dived into Trick Williams' knee. And from there, everybody was just like, oh no, that's how we're going to do this. And then they go into the finishing sequence. Power bomb, H-bomb off the second rope. 1, 2, Trick Williams kicked out and the place exploded. The place exploded as Trick Williams kicked out. Oh my God, it was. I actually moved to the edge of my seat. I was hype. I thought this thing was over. Trick Williams ends up nailing Ilya Dragunov with a spin boot. He only gets a 2 count. There was some more Carmelo Hayes shenanigans, and then a referee ended up bumped. It was terrible. While that happened, Trick Williams hit his big knee, and it took forever for a second referee. He only got a 2 count. The crowd gave that ref hell, telling him that he sucks and all this kind of stuff. Dragonov continues to deliver punishment to Trick Williams. He goes to the top rope to do the H-bomb from the very top rope. Trick Williams gets his knees up, but again, he's selling the knee because he got chop blocked earlier. So he has to sort of wake his knee up as he's trying to go over to the corner. So they decide to do a duel at high noon, which was, I felt like there was like a like dust that was going to come rolling through, like one of those rolling bundles you see in a Western movie. I felt like that was about to happen. Trick Williams goes into one of the far corners. Ilya Dragunov goes into the other far corner. Trick Williams is trying to do his pump knee, and Ilya Dragunov is going to do Torpedo Moscow, and they run to do it, but Trick Williams' knee gives out just a little bit, and he gets hit with Torpedo Moscow. 1, 2, 3. Trick Williams loses. Now, before we go any further, I kind of had it in my mind that he would lose both matches, but my God, don't book him to lose both matches. Come on, Sean. He can't lose them both. Again, if he'd have split it 1-1, I think that'd have been good for most people. He lost both matches. Look, I understand. Saying losing the second match, you use the first match as an excuse to lose the second one. Of course, you had Trick Williams is a victim of the Carmelo Hayes nonsense earlier in the night. The ref bump where he had a 3 count, but the referee wasn't there. So you gave him some excuses. But my goodness, you don't beat him. This is your top baby face, and you beat him twice in one night. He didn't get pinned twice, but he lost twice in one night. That's not something I would have done. That's a bit of a ballsy move. And as bad as people are complaining about Cody, I mean, justice for Trick Williams, for God's sake. What more did this kid got to do, man? Like, really, what more did he got to do to finally get to that level? I mean, I was talking with my brother about this. Like, man, this kid's only been in the business like 3 years. And he's blowing the roof off the building with like 3 years of experience because of charisma and, natural talent. He hasn't really learned that much about the business yet. But Jesus Christ, he definitely should have been an NXT champion at the very least. I don't know where you go with Dragonov now. I'm not sure where Dragonov's next position is. I guess we'll figure that out. But my goodness, to beat Trick Williams twice is absolute nonsense. So after the match, Ilya Dragunov he disappears. So Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes are in the ring. Melo is trying to let Trick know, hey, you're my boy. You let this one go, but you're still my guy. You did your best. And then he positions himself behind Trick Williams, and everybody saw it coming. He chop blocked Trick Williams. He went and got a chair, hit him a bunch of times with the chair, yelled at Trick, ripped the shirt off, threw it on Trick. Then he started, as he was walking away, he started yelling at the crowd that you're the reason I did this. This is all your fault. You made me like this. And I did not like. I mean, look, I liked the turn. Everybody saw the turn coming. The turn came This is what they should have did with Bayley. You know, everybody saw the turn coming. It was sensible. The only problem I have is Trick lost both matches. That's not something that I care about. You know, the turn was going to happen, but I think the turn would have been so much better if Trick was the champion, or if it had happened earlier in the night and Trick now has to wrestle Ilya Dragunov with one leg or something like that, and then win the title. That would have been so much more dramatic, so much more sympathetic. I don't think you can build Trick Williams to have more sympathy than he has right now. And I think that's becoming an issue, because if you're not going to make him the champion, because apparently that's not the direction they're going in, at least not anytime soon, Stand and Deliver or Roadblock or whatever is, Roadblock is the 5th, Stand and Deliver is, around WrestleMania. He's likely going to wrestle Carmelo Hayes at Stand and Deliver. So he won't have a chance to actually win the championship for at least another month or so. So I'm guessing they're just going to have to move on. So that tells me that they're going to continue with Dragonov. And Trick Williams, his future is feuding with Carmelo Hayes, which, we already knew that. We already knew he was going to feud with Carmelo. And I know a personal issue can sometimes outdraw the title. But he should have got the fucking title, man. To have the match that he had with his level of experience, to have the building rocking that way twice in one night, he really killed it both times. He's further along than I think most people want to give him credit for. And I was having a conversation in the Discord. I suggest everybody joins the Discord about Triple H signing a lot of people who are, in the upper age bracket. There's a lot of talk about Okada being brought in. There's some talk about, in the future, guys like, Wardlow and all this kind of stuff. All these guys who are in their 30s already. And I say, if you keep bringing in those guys, the Karrion Crosses and the LA Knights, no matter how good they are, they're still 36. When you have people like Braun Breaker, Tiffany Stratton, Trick Williams, and they're in their early 20s and they're this good and they're blowing the roof off the building, like Braun Breaker's destroying this place pretty much every week, being one of the most over guys on the roster. When do they finally get to break through if you keep signing and bringing in 38-year-olds? So I definitely think that they need to curb that a little bit, and they need to start moving some of those people around. It's time for a younger crop of guys, especially after Roman coughs up the belt. And even if you cough it up to Cody, who is his peer, technically, I think Roman and Cody are on the same age. It's time to start bringing in that new generation. Because it's been the same guys, the Kevin Owens and the Sami Zayns and the Drew McIntyres and John Cena and all these. It's been these guys for 10 years or so. I know Drew just now came back, but he's been around for a long time. Randy Orton's been around forever. AJ Styles has been around for a while. LA Knight has not been around for a while, but Seth Rollins has. Nakamura has. It's time to start populating WWE's main event with some younger talent. And it's not an issue of the young talent are not over, because the Creed brothers were over before they got brought up to the main roster, jobbed out, and now they've disappeared. They were over in NXT. They were killing it in NXT. And now it's just, they're in a holding pattern. Pretty Deadly was over in NXT. What happened? And it's almost as if when people used to say, oh, Nakamura was great in NXT, or Finn Balor was great in NXT, and then they would get up to the main roster and it was Vince. He was putting the screws to him. And now you're seeing Triple H doing the exact same thing to a lot of the NXT 2.0 talent that Vince was pushing. Triple H is putting an axe to him and kind of screwing him over. And I don't like it, because I feel bad for Tiffany Stratton and Trick Williams and Braun Breaker and all these people who, they're young and they got talent, but I just don't see them moving up the card quick enough. And I just sit back and watch, and I'm considering always Bianca Belair, who was basically in the dead zone when she was in NXT. And if it wasn't for WWE's marketing department putting her on all the posters and everything, she probably would be in the dead zone again on the main roster. But That's neither here nor there. Let's not get too much into that. Trick Williams is amazing. The story with Carmelo Hayes, everybody saw this coming. Everybody knew this was going to happen. We've been waiting on this. This is going to draw, I believe. If you do it right, it could draw you a lot. It should be the top match on Stand and Deliver. This should be the main event of Stand and Deliver. Because the championship match, whomever it is not going to be as over as Trick Williams. So, and Trick Williams should win the match too, by the by. The idea that he's going to lose the Dusty Cup, lose to Dragonov, and then turn around and lose to Carmelo Hayes is bullshit. He needs to at least win that match and get him back on the winning ways so that he can eventually beat Ilya Dragunov. And hopefully he's the guy who beats Ilya Dragunov, and they don't get it in their brain to give the belt to somebody else first. Mainly because Dragunov has been such an important element in the development of Trick Williams. He should be the guy who passes the belt to Trick. Okay. Joe Gacy and Dijak, they had a match. I didn't really care much about it. Joe Gacy populated the top of a table with little army men. And I was like, why would he do that? I'm talking about the little army men I used to have as a kid. I used to melt them. You know, I used to chew on them and melt them. I had pica really bad as a kid. So it was like, it was crazy. They weren't G.I. Joes. They were the ones with the flat bottoms. The little army men with the flat bottoms. And you just, put them down. He just had a bunch of them on the table. Dijak tried to do a springboard. Springboard what? Who knows? He ended up pushing, Joe Gacy ended up pushing Dijak off there. He went through the table. He still managed to win the match. They did the gimmick where Joe Gacy was unconscious, quote unquote, but he was still smiling. This was just a buffer match because nothing else was going on during this time. Okay, so the Chase U, they're still doing the calendar gimmick. Apparently, the Chase U calendars will be a real thing. They're going to sell on WWEshop.com starting Monday, February the 6th. I'm sorry, February the 5th. And they had the girls signing them. So, Thea Hale was signing them, Carmen Petrovich, a bunch of other people. JC Jane was called a genius for her idea of the calendar. Later, Riley Osborne came to the table to talk to Thea Hale and to wonder, if she had a Valentine already. Thea Hale, of course, does not. And so Riley Osborne asked her to be his Valentine. And I said, man, that is so sweet. He didn't bring her any flowers or anything like that. But it was so sweet. I was like, oh. Later, Lexis King shows up and says, he's such a sleazy character. I love this guy. He said that Thea is Miss April or something like that. So he says, how about a spring fling with the king? He immediately got attacked by Riley Osborne. And the two of them started to fight. So they're going to have a match on NXT on Tuesday. Okay. Brian Pillman does a really good job with being sleazy. Now, of course, these are the elements of, he probably watched his dad do some stuff and come up with this element of his character. But he's really good at it, just being sort of an ass. And he's entertaining. I know a lot of people hate him, but he's entertaining as hell. The Chase U stuff is always fun. All right, the 6-person tag match came next. OTM were defeated by the D'Angelo family. They had a vignette in which the Black Swan theme played. This is like the 3rd or 4th time WWE have used the Black Swan theme so far. I think they used it earlier this year with the vignette for Ludwig Kaiser, when everybody thought Ludwig Kaiser was about to get a solo push. They used the Black Swan theme. I love that vignette, by the way. It's one of my favorite vignette they've done in a while. But this OTM, D'Angelo family vignette was pretty good too. OTM, again, were not riding the bikes. They were walking them. I hate that's becoming a pet peeve of mine. Don't bring vehicles to the ring if you're not going to actually ride them. We're just going to walk to the ring with these bikes. Oh, that's so annoying. All right. Jada Parker comes out, and my goodness, I love that girl. Jada Parker. Anyway, she got the jobber thing going where she's got one pant leg. And I don't understand why anybody does this. That's becoming another pet peeve of mine. Wrestlers who only decide, I'm only going to have one pant leg. Why? Why would you do that? What is that about? Stop doing that. Anyway, I paid more attention to the girls in this match because I don't think I'm that familiar with either one of them as wrestlers. Adriana Rizzo did a flying frog splash outside the ring. And they went for it. I got to tell you, the girls actually went for it. They had some energy. They weren't perfect, but they didn't screw anything up. OTM takes the L. I kind of saw that coming, but I don't see why they lose so much. Like, OTM loses a lot to be big guys. You know, they lose a lot, especially to be hood guys. You would think they would get disqualified or something. Like, this thing should have broke down into a brawl, much like the Final Testament, Lashley and Street Profits kind of thing, where they should have been bashing each other with chairs and shit. But it was okay, I guess. The girls were kind of impressive. I don't know if they're good enough to carry a match by themselves yet, but it was solid. It wasn't terrible. All right, Kiana James and Izzy Dame are talking about targeting the next NXT Women's Champion. But first, they got a future-proof NXT. They need to take out anybody that people believe is the future of NXT. And so they say they're going to take out Kalani Jordan. And she's their first target. And Izzy Dame's going to be the one that's going to take her out. So I'm guessing they're going to have a match eventually. Poor Kalani Jordan. She didn't ask for this. I think she's hurt, by the way. I think she just had an injury. So speaking of the Women's Championship, the fourth match on the show, Roxanne Perez versus Lyra Valkyria versus Lola Vice. Because everything is Money in the Bank. And Money in the Bank is everything. And it's stupid. It's stupid. I'm not mad that they... Yes, I am. I'm not even going to say it. I tried to understand it, but I don't. It's dumb. So what happened? Roxanne Perez and Lyra Valkyria were having a hell of a match, if we're being honest. They were doing some really good stuff, especially technical wrestling. I was very impressed with Roxanne Perez. She was actually showing some personality. You know, Lyra Valkyria can match her in the ring. Lyra was a little bit slow. You could see her thinking through things a little bit. But overall, I think they were having a really good match. Roxanne Perez hits her finish to Pop Rocks. At which point in time, Lola Vice runs to the ring with her own referee to cash in her briefcase, well, her contract that she won for the Breakout tournament. At this point, it becomes a triple threat match. And Lola Vice is locking various submission holds onto Roxanne Perez. She's got a rear naked choke on her. She's trying to put her in an arm bar. She's got her in a triangle choke. You know, she gave her a spin kick. She did all kinds of stuff to Roxanne Perez and couldn't beat her. And so the match is going on. Tatum Paxley tried to stop this from becoming a triple threat match and failed completely. But she comes back after Roxanne Perez hits her finisher again, this time on Lola Vice. And Tatum Paxley jumped in the ring to break up the count because this match is no disqualification. It's triple threat. At which point in time, Roxanne Perez was knocked outside the ring. Lola Vice was hit with Lyra Valkyria's finisher, and Lyra Valkyria wins the match. So she is still the champion. Lola Vice has lost her title shot, and so has Roxanne Perez. But the story that they were telling earlier through a vignette is that Roxanne Perez has never lost for any championship match. She's never actually been beaten for any titles in NXT. Of course, we know that Cora Jade turned heel on her and threw away the tag team belt. And she had a medical release of the NXT women's title. So she never actually lost. And so they interjected Lola Vice into this match just so they can continue the story of Roxanne Perez has not been beaten in a singles match for the women's title yet. So she lost this match, but she didn't get beat. And Lyra Valkyria has not beaten her. And you have the Tatum Paxley mix up. So, Tatum Paxley is now getting involved with Lyra Valkyria's business, and Lyra doesn't like it. Lola Vice looks like a fucking idiot, however. Look, Lola Vice is good in the ring. She's actually pretty good. When she joined the match, the energy level of everything increased. Everybody was very excited because they thought the finish was coming. Everybody thought she's going to come in, hit a big move, get the pin, and walk out with the belt. Except it became a longer match, Like they had already worked quite a bit of the match. And now they're going to increase the length of the match because now you've added another person. And then she's the one who takes the pin. So now she's like a fucking goof. She wasted her contract by making it a triple threat match when it didn't need to be. Instead of just letting Roxanne Perez win and then cashing in her briefcase, she cashed it in mid-match. It extended the match, turned it into a completely different match, and then lost. I'm telling you, this is stupid. What is going on? I know they got away with this one time with Seth Rollins. Pretty much one time where that thing has worked. Everybody who uses the Money in the Bank in the middle of a match is a fucking idiot. Unless both people are dead, you're an idiot. You run the risk of them pinning each other and you losing your contract. That's dumb. It's dumb. Not when you can wait and just do it afterwards. But it was a hell of a match. I just didn't like that they wasted Lola Vice's title shot. It seemed goofy to me. But it was fine. They showed a 3 sides vignette. It was a Japanese vignette where you have 3 faces. One the world sees, one your family sees, and one which is the real one, which no one sees because it harbors the real evil within. This leads to a lot of people talking about who could it be. There's some Japanese free agents floating around. There's also some words about Rosie Ogawa, the former founder and former executive of Stardom. He apparently got fired in the middle of this show. And that leads to a lot of people talking about, hey, he was poaching talent on behalf of WWE. We'll talk about that if that ever becomes a story. But for most people who don't know anything about Stardom, it's not really relevant to you. Just know that he was the Japanese guy who used to run Stardom, which is an all-female wrestling promotion in Japan. And Bushi Road, who owns New Japan and Stardom, claimed that he was poaching talent. We don't know if he was poaching talent from Stardom to where. There was no word. There's a lot of whispers about him poaching talent for somebody else, and people just assumed it's WWE. So we don't know. But because the Japanese wrestling circuit is having a disaster where New Japan just fired their president last year and replaced him with Tanahashi, and then Okada leaves. Now Julia's leaving. Now Rosie Ogawa left. There's a lot of stuff going on over there. For them to use a Japanese proverb on NXT has gotten a lot of people's ears ringing. They're like, what's going on here? And I can tell you, it's probably Julia. I'm pretty sure it's not Okada. I know there was some whispers that Okada might be joining WWE, and he would join NXT first, just so he can have some time to learn the language and all that kind of stuff. And I understand that is sensible. It's not like something I'm 100% against. And also NXT is pretty good if you want to just get started. He'll be living in this country, I guess. So if he needs to find somewhere to live and all that kind of stuff, NXT might work out better for him in the short term. But until we have more information, we're all just speculating, which is fun. It's fun to speculate, but you need more information before you can make certain statements. I'm pretty sure it's Julia, though. I'm pretty sure. All right. The North American Championship, Obafemi defeats Dragon Lee. This match was fun as hell, too. This was another match where the rookie guy didn't have to do that much. Obafemi just had to look dominant. Because he's so much bigger than Dragon Lee, that was easy. Him being able to pick him up and throw him and all this kind of stuff. It looked great. He at one point picked up Dragon Lee and threw him into an office chair, which ruled. He ended up in like a spider, kind of a tarantula almost hold. I forget what it's called, but he couldn't use his arms, and he ended up grabbing the ropes with his teeth, which is great. It was a really fun match. Normally I would complain about Dragon Lee losing so much, especially since he's supposed to be like a really top prospect. And he's another young guy too that WWE just is kind of shrugging on. But Obafemi is in that same age bracket as Dragon Lee, and he seems to have a lot going for him already. You know, very simple in terms of character, very simple in terms of the presentation of the character. But Obafemi is right now all that he needs to be in terms of being sort of search and destroy, straight line, destroy everything. He doesn't need too many developments right now. He could use some more vignettes to really put him over. You know, he could use some little character stuff like that. But for the most part, he's doing great. Maybe it's time for Dragon Lee to go up the card, and maybe for him to be the guy who's going to challenge Ilya Dragunov, and for him to be a top guy in NXT. It's beyond time for that. I know he just lost to Obafemi, so how can you make him a top guy? Like, just rehab him. You know, give him a couple of wins in a row, win a tournament, or not a tournament, please, no more tournaments. A fatal 4-way match or something, and then we just go from there, okay? Okay. So the final thing we're going to talk about is Idris Enofe and Malik Blade. They did their homework, which is they found 5 things that they liked, 5 things that they didn't like about their loss in the Dusty Cup. And they told Brentley Reese, I think her name was Brentley, or whatever her name is. It's some kind of stupid name. And then Axiom and Nathan Fraser walked up to him. Nathan Fraser was hating pretty hard, saying that this stuff is not going to work. And then it's going to lead to a tag team match between the two of them, between the two teams. But Malik Blade and Idris Enofe, 2 of my favorite NXT talents. Both of these guys are underutilized. Having fun with this. You know, this show was great. It was a great show. Very fun. Clearly, there is some issues with the creative elements, like OTM losing, Dragon Lee being a loser, Trick Williams losing a lot, you know, but these are little things that can be fixed over time, you know, and plus, especially in the instance of Trick Williams and Dragon Lee, they're losing to guys who are really talented in and of themselves. And Obafemi has a really bright future, and Dragonov is a standard. So there's no real reason to be upset about that. But the Lola Vice thing was very frustrating. It was kind of stupid, but the match was great. I just want to know what direction we're going with Lola Vice now that she doesn't have the championship match in the box now. Her and Roxanne Perez, they got into a brawl afterwards, with Roxanne being extremely furious that Lola Vice fucked up her title shot. But this is exactly the same situation as Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. You know, you couldn't just wait. You decided to do it now, and you ruined it for everybody. You big, dumb idiot. But overall, this show was extremely fun. The crowd really added to the show. I like the skits and the vignettes that they added to the show to bring characters on, even though they don't have anything to do. It broke up the monotony of having match after match after match, and they were setting up things for the future. So they exposed people who were not going to be on the show wrestling, and they set up things for, hey, you want to see what this kid's going to do? Watch NXT. And I suggest everybody watch NXT. It's an absolutely good, clean pro wrestling show, and this show was fun. Let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.